Good morning, students. Now, in this lecture, we will discuss principle of location. A workpiece theoretically suspended and free in space is free to move in any direction. It is said to leave 12 modes or degree of freedom. It may move in either of two opposed directions of the three mutually perpendicular axes, x-axis, y-axis and z-axis. These six movements are called movements of translation, and the workpiece can also rotate in either of two opposite directions around each axis, clockwise and anti-clockwise direction. These six movements are called rotational movement. Each direction of movement is considered one degree of freedom, and to completely locate a workpiece, it must be restricted against movement in these 12 degrees of freedom, except those required by the operation. This condition is satisfied when the part is confined in the workpiece holder. This is the diagram that will show you the 12 degree of freedom and 12 possible motions in on x-axis and y-axis and z-axis. Now I will tell you something about principle 3 to 1 principle of location. In this method, the workpiece is located by means of 6 pins, which restrict the workpiece in 9 of its degrees of freedom. Uh, the method is discussed as I will discuss you in point wise. The workpiece is made to rest on 3 points, 3 pins. First one A pins, B pin, and C pin inserted in the base of the body, as shown in figure. You can see easily, and this restricts the rotational movements along x-axis, y-axis, and also downward movement. That is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, as you can see in this diagram, have been restricted, and insertion of two more pins, pin D and pin E, restrict the rotation movements about z-axis. You can easily see the z-axis, and the movements toward left, that is 6, 7, 8, 6, 7 and 8 movements has been restricted, and insertion of one pin capital F stop the movement 9. This one is the F pin. It will help to restrict the 9 movement that has been. Thus, 6 locating pins restrict 9 degrees of freedom. 3 degrees of freedom are still free, and for that, 3 more pins are needed. But this will lead to a complete enclosure of the workpiece, making its loading and unloading difficult. So, hence, a clamping device is used to restrict the rest 3 degrees of freedom. This method is also known as 6 point location principle. A workpiece theoretically suspended and free in space, as you can see in this diagram, and it is free to move in any direction that I have already told you. There are total 12 modes and 12 degrees of freedoms. There are 6 movements of translation. If you will consider on x-axis, there are two motions, one backward and the backward and the forward. Same on the y-axis, there are two translation movements, one backward and another one is the forward, and on z-axis there are two another motions that will be backward and the forward. You will consider there here 6 movements. These movements are called as translation of movements, and other workpiece try to rotate in two direction, clockwise and anti-clockwise, that I have already told you. These 6 movements are called rotational movements, and this you can easily understand the principle of location. In this method, only the minimum locating pins should be used in secure location of workpiece in any one plane. However, if more are used, such as for finished surface, the extra ones should only be inserted because they serve a useful purpose and can must be taken that they do not impair the location. and locating point should be chosen as far away from one another as possible on any one workpiece surface. Thus, for a given displacement of any locating point from another, the resultant deviation decreases as distance between the points increases. Principle of mutual perpendicular planes. Generally, its locating points are in a satisfactory position in mutually perpendicular planes. Other arrangements are possible but not desirable if the locating surfaces are not perpendicular. Following two difficulties will arise. First one, the workpiece will tend to lift due to the wagging action, and the displacement. Second one is the displacement of a locating pin or a particle adhering to it introduces a correspondingly large error, and is projected error projected to become the resulting error, and the projection factor is zero when the locating surfaces are perpendicular and increases as the angle between them becomes more accurate. So this is like basic diagram of principle of location, and this is the I have already explained you about the 321 principle of location, and these is are the pins A, B, C, D, and D, E, and F1. These are the six pins that can restrict the motion in nine directions, and if total the degree of freedom is 12, so if you want to restrict the whole 12 modes of yeah, degree of freedom, so you have to use a clamping device that can restrict the rest 3 degrees of freedom. And thank you very much. If you have any question, you can ask in comment box.